it's very inspiring on their message as well, their mindset, their daily routines. I think that's really, really fun. I really like that part of my job, just to be able to interact with them, learn from them, how they grow their business, how they build the business. You become kind of like an extension of their company. And that's kind of what we want to be. It's not about just getting the order, fulfilling it, and then we're done. It's how can we actually help you with your journey.
You're listening to Economics, a Debutify podcast, your resource for one-of-a-kind insights into the world of e-commerce and business in the modern age. This is Joseph. I'll be presenting a wealth of industry knowledge from interviews with successful business people and our own state-of-the-art research. Your time is valuable, so let's go. Simon de Raadt, it is great to have you here on Economics. How you doing today? How you feeling?
Very good. Thank you for having me, Joseph.
Awesome. Happy to have you guys here. You know, it's great to we've met a lot of people in the e-commerce space so far, and I think at some point we're going to have met everybody. So it's we're really happy to have you here as part of that mission.
Cool. I'm excited to be here. I've been following the Debutify a lot, and I've listened to your episodes, and the content is really cool. Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot. I could have asked you this before the recording, but I guess I'll just ask you now. Do you remember what episodes you listened to? I'm just curious.
I listened to I have to double check, honestly.
Okay. That might have been something I should have asked you prior to, but I couldn't help myself.
Let me check previous play. So the Daniel Budai and Steve Tan.
Mm-hmm. Did you go with them because they're people you recognized, or you just kind of like pick at random? Because believe me, I do that too. Like if I'm going through a new podcast for the first time, I always go like, "Oh, I know him. I know Matt."
So Steve Tan is from the Tan brothers, so he is kind of well known in the dropshipping industry. So that's why I wanted to listen to his story and get a little bit more background on him. Mm-hmm. And Daniel was more about retention mastery through mail marketing, and retention is always a big one on what kind of message do you put out there, just to whether it's for acquiring customers or whether it's getting consumers excited. There's always some nuggets when you get more thoughts about the logic behind, more or less.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on retention marketing very briefly, retention is really where a brand can shine the most because it shows the appreciation and the gratitude for the customers putting their time and their energy and especially their money into that brand and supporting that. So, you know, it reminds me of a lesson that I learned in marketing even as far back as high school, which is, you know, advertising has two roles. First, you sell people on the product, and then you continue to validate their decision by continuing to show ads and say, you know, you invested in something that's still going to be around and something that's worthwhile.
Yeah, and that's what dropshippers now are doing. Everyone is trying to build their online brand. And with the purpose, of course, to get retention and get awareness and create like a long-term business.
Excellent. Let's jump into our first and most important question, which is for you to tell us what you do and tell us what you're up to these days.
Yeah, so I'm Simon. I'm at HyperSKU, and I'm based in China for the last 10 years. Offices in Shenzhen. I'm currently living in Shanghai myself. And for the last 2 years, I've been helping online sellers with their sourcing and shipping from China. First by myself, and since last year, I also joined HyperSKU because I just fully embraced the mission that they're chasing. There's just such unclarity still for actually online sellers to communicate with Chinese suppliers, to get a full transparency on what's happening, get answers, and then not suddenly a supplier that disappears, taking ownership and responsibility. I think that there's a lot of work to do, and it's still in kind of an infancy. I mean, ordering from China and shipping it out is not that hard, but to actually control it and get much more sustainability and transparency on that, that's quite difficult. So I'm quite excited to join that mission.
Yeah, well, and I think transparency is a great subject to touch on because it's not just about, you know, where's my product or when is this thing being shipped out. I think it's also transparency in terms of the culture and in terms of the workforce and the labor force. You know, one thing that I looked into very early on when I was doing this show is, you know, what the working conditions can be like in China. And one thing that I learned is that, you know, it's not always flattering, doesn't always reflect well on them, but there are also countermeasures in place. There's watch groups, there are groups that are trying to elevate the quality of work. And I think being held accountable to a global market like this is giving the industry a chance to evolve and to provide better quality of work. So I'd love to hear your take on that. And what are some of the things you'd like to tell people about, even just the work culture within, well, specifically within HyperSKU, but if you can touch on it at large, I'd love to hear that too.
Let's first do HyperSKU and then maybe compare with at large.
Sure.
When it comes to HyperSKU, it's we're kind of taking the benefit of what China has to offer. So China is very strong on logistics, has a lot of course, access to products and very good IT resources. So from that resources perspective, both logistics, products, and IT, that's something that's available at scale. So that's one thing why that makes sense. And then what we kind of do is add another flavor on it by having an international team. We have speakers that speak, besides myself, I'm originally from the Netherlands, I speak Dutch. Then we have German speaker, Russian, Spanish, French. And that kind of part of the communication is something where a lot of people struggle when it comes to buying products from China or anywhere cross-border. That part of it is something we think is very important, especially if somebody wants to build a brand, then they want to share what it is that they want to build. And as they're not touching the product with dropshipping, they need someone else to bring that message across. And that's something that I think I like, and this makes us more unique. When it comes to, we really have valued empowering online sellers, whether they're big or small. Of course, we prefer the big, obviously, but we understand that it's a journey and everyone needs help during that journey. So for us, from early stage, no MOQ, we can just get started because we understand some dropshippers can go really fast and we want to be on that wave as well. When it comes to, so that's kind of us. We have office in Shenzhen and in Hangzhou, where we kind of like expand, and I'm going to set up office in Europe later next month. And we have someone in the US soon and in Israel. And in this way, we're trying to expand. But our backbone has always been China because that's the strength when it comes to e-commerce right now. This is where all the main developments are, and they're available of capital, everything there. When it comes to comparing ourselves to competition, so for me, competition, you have dropshipping agents, you have apps, and you have also these kind of competitors like Rio and CJ Dropshipping, which are in a similar space as us.
And we have had Rio on the show before. Haven't had CJ Dropshipping yet, but in due time.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to comparison, I think we have much more international flavor. They're in size, they're bigger than us, that's for sure. But we have an international flavor, which really helps. And for us, it's less about revenue, where actually it's much more about the individuals. How can I help you to excel, do your best job? Our organization is quite flat, and most Chinese companies are very hierarchical. It's the boss that's deciding, and you just have to follow, and then just go with it. Whether you agree or don't agree, it doesn't matter. You can have an opinion, but not much going to change. So it's more like a factory. It's like an e-commerce factory. And for us, it's very flat. Everyone has their expertise. So our IT team is very strong. HR, sales, purchasing, they all have their own expertise, and we rely on them. And we're very open on that. And we share understanding and thoughts from our perspective. And then we see this is not possible because of that, or that's possible because of this. So that's kind of the dynamics that makes it, for me, I think, a very cool space to work in.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I noticed too, because you're describing all the different languages, like Russian, for instance, is you also have what I would say is a diverse array of perspectives and backgrounds who are converging in this space and are sharing their ideas unique to what they've experienced in their background. So I'm wondering if that is actually, if this is me just hypothesizing, or if there's actually been any tangible results in, like, what does the Russian speaker have to say? Have they been able to offer unique insights? What have you been able to offer unique insights that I think would otherwise not be there if it was all just people locally working there?
For sure. I think most of our Chinese colleagues as well, they have studied abroad, and they're also, so everyone in our team that's communicating with customers are trilingual. So at least trilingual, Chinese, English, and something else. Even the foreigners that are in our company, they also speak Chinese. So the main language in our company during meetings is Chinese. But we have lived all over the world, so that will give us an added value. I think the most important is generate trust with the dropshippers itself, and grabbing the information from Facebook groups or other groups that are available where people share what they're struggling with. And we see that every country still has different development stages. Not all countries are already very mature.
Mhm.
For some, dropshipping is still new. So you still have to educate them much more. So the questions that come up are very different. And the needs are also different with that. And that's having that kind of angle of being able to grab that information, making it our own, target them with the right information, and then that will help the conversion, and then will help them in their journey as well.
So this next thing that I'm wondering about, this would happen to be a little bit more on a specific, one might say, a granular level. But in terms of being able to service a clientele, what you have is a lot of people at different times. Like you and I, like it's the morning for you, it's 7 o'clock for me, and we're just us two. But if you have clients and you have people working with you all over the world, then what I suspect is that you also have a great deal of flexibility in the hours and who has to be active relative to when. Again, I come back to the Russian speaker just as one example. When a lot of the Russian customers come in, I assume that the Russian agent would need to be there, ready to service them. So has there been an effect on on the flow of like who's coming in, who's coming out, and shift scheduling and things like that? Is it mostly is there's a lot of remote work going on, or is it more centralized in the location?
We're most centralized. We still everyone goes to our office. I mean, but the working hours, our office hours are like 9:30 to 7. But in the end, as the sales, or if you're dealing with customers from all over the world, there is no limit
Yeah.
to that. It's ongoing, and we see actually that a lot of the drop shippers, they are very active in the weekends and in the early mornings and the nights, because quite often they have another job.
Yeah.
And that puts
Yeah, that
pressure
checks out. Yeah.
on our team. Obviously, we don't have a 24-hour customer service, but normally we respond within a few hours. But considering the nights, yeah, of course, there's going to be some kind of delay when it comes to response. We try to speed it up by creating a group either on WhatsApp or Skype, just to have this direct contact instead of having a chat where you just have to wait for someone to respond once they're online, to make it more interactive, and add another colleague just to increase the chance of someone replying.
Mhm.
So we're trying to leverage in a way, but yeah, there will be some can be some delay due to time zones for sure.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of challenging things to consider. If any in our audience are thinking about where they want to branch off in the future and try running one of their own operations, there's certainly a lot of logistical factors, communication factors that have to be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
And also,
But when it comes to the communication for sure. But when it comes to handling orders or processing orders, that's what we do during the daytime for us. So it doesn't matter when the actual communication takes place. Once the order is paid, we will handle it in the daytime. So that kind of timing is also very important for us. That our morning things need to be done to be able to
yeah.
benefit from it to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's a personal my mistake there just ever so slightly, which is I know logistics is usually shipping and fulfillment, but I don't know, at some point I think when I heard the word logistics, I just kept it as more of like a general back end operations thing. So that was my mistake. So but yeah, you also make a good point, is that regardless of like what time zone they're in, a few days is a few days. And so these things, they need to be shipped efficiently in that block of time. It's batch work. It has to be batched out. The other thing that I just found it amusing, because you were saying that drop shippers, they'll be keen on communications early in the morning or in the evening or on the weekends. And I think that speaks, I think, not just to drop shippers, but that also speaks to the entrepreneurial spirit, which is whatever time that I have to work on it, I take. And it happens to be when my time isn't taken up elsewhere with my other responsibilities.
Yeah, it's I really get inspired by doing what I do, talking to these individuals. They're chasing their financial dream, or they already established it, and they continue to build on it, by the online or offline. It's very inspiring on their message as well, their mindset, their daily routines. I think that's really, really fun. I really like that part of my job, just to be able to interact with them, learn from them, how they grow their business, how to build the business. I've built some businesses myself. I can also help them. And you become kind of like an extension of their company. And that's kind of what we want to be. It's not about just getting the order, fulfilling it, and then we're done. It's how can we actually help you with your journey, whether we need to get some experienced dropshipper on board. We're not that strong on ads because we focus on the back end,
Yep.
just the sourcing, the fulfillment, and the shipping. When it comes to advertising, there are other people that do that. And there's plenty of content on that already. We just found that a lot of the content that we're trying to create also on our YouTube channel, on Instagram, it's much more about what's happening behind the scene on the supply chain. There's not so much visibility on that. Everyone is claiming to be like the advertising king or know what products to search. It's more front end. And then Debutify is also very focused on the front end. And we see all these content being created on social media, but who's going to handle it? And we want to be the one that's handling it. When the order comes in, someone needs to arrange it, ship it out, and make sure that the consumer receives it.
Yeah, I mean, as the Debutify guy on my side, I think you make a good observation that marketing is definitely a key factor, and that is a lot of the work of Ricky Hayes. And what I would say that makes Debutify stand out is because these themes they begin on the back end. We do have our back end developer who is trying to make that side of it efficient by offering a lot of add-ons. We have more than 40 add-ons, so it is a lot about figuring out what problems do we want to solve so that we can help the consumer solve the problems that they're more energized to. And so in that regard, Debutify really wants to help people focus on the marketing side of it.
Yeah, and that's in the end what generates the traffic. So the having the right website, copyright, advertising, that's in the end what's going to drive the traffic, and we benefit from that. So we also need this kind of expert players like yourself and your team to be able to generate the traffic, and then we will benefit from it. So we're not so much visible to the consumer. We're very much in the back.
So I do want to ask about the origin of HyperSKU. Whenever I ever get the chance, I think it's important to just hear kind of like the story of it. And there's a very particular question that I like to ask, which is at the creation of it, what problem did they identify in the market and that they were trying to solve? And I think we've kind of like touched on it here or there, but I want to make sure that I ask it formally and just give it a chance to be said out loud.
Yeah, there are two owners. They're both Chinese. One has run Pioneer, a payment company in China. The other one has run IT solutions, for example, Express, the tracking, they've done the China lottery, they work with Tencent. So he has a very strong experience when it comes to backend. But kind of they both complement each other. So one is doing the business development and the sales and everything, and more like the CEO. And then one is more the logistics, operations, and the IT. And they kind of came up with the idea that current market players are not filling the gap enough when it comes to internalization, when it comes to localization, just because every market, like we touched on, is different, and it needs a customized touch, and it's all standardized. So that is something that we thought, and we see that a lot of dropshippers are, someone places the order, ships it out, but the one that you buy from doesn't touch the product, doesn't touch the order. And that means that actually there's no control. And that kind of thing is something that we want to also make sure. What we saw, what happened is that social media has become a very big driver, and maybe even bigger than the platforms Amazon and eBay have. Amazon and eBay, we cannot really, there's so many Chinese players. I think more than 40% are Chinese sellers. We cannot compete on price with them. So we focus on the social part. We want to help the social generate, because that's all traffic generated. There's no SEO, there's no comparison. It's more impulse buying. And for that's really the angle that we are chasing. We got investors on board. We did a round last year. We're planning to do another round this year, just to be able to for us to go big. And maybe but a lot of Chinese e-commerce companies, one of their business model is IPO, just kind of generating capital, generating value, just to be able to make that jump outside of China, because it's really tough to stand out. It's really hard work to be able to compete with the existing market players and grab your space.
And I think to build on that point, because it's not just about other competitors, say in the e-commerce space, I think it's also competition with what I would say is more like the household approach to business that people have come to expect for quite a while. I'm talking about products that end up in Walmarts and end up in superstores, and there is this. I think this. It's unfortunate, but I think it will be something that will be resolved in time, is that there's this divide between brands that really have their start in e-commerce versus brands that have more of a legacy to them. Because, unfortunately, not everybody has the luxury of starting in the 1800s, back when they were supplying product via a horse and carriage. Now it's a hyper competitive landscape. But then, to also tie in your other point, it's about how social media is far more of the important factor here compared to Amazon and these other large companies. And I think the reason for that is it comes back to the intent behind why somebody is using this. Somebody goes on Amazon, they're looking for something, right? I don't think anybody goes on to Amazon just being like, I want to be inspired today. No, people always know what they want when they go on to Amazon. But social media is, depending on my mood, I'll call it a drug, but it's also it's also a discovery platform. It's always about, what's not only what's new, but what's active and what's happening, what's exciting, what are other people talking about. And so being able to engage them on that level helps to generate a lot of that initial buzz to hopefully get those brands branched into a more recognized and a more legacy setting.
Yeah, and what we see is one of the reasons that we as well think we can have an extra edge is that building a brand online normally results into also start selling offline. That means a combination of these two, and that's a different business model. It's not shipping an individual parcel; it's shipping bulk, and that needs to be custom cleared. And there's much more complexity to this. To be able to leverage this, that online seller is selling on multiple platforms, they have different wishes on products that will be shipped out. They want some stock in China to service global. They want some stock local to be able to service their customers in their local market at one or more platforms. That kind of mix is something that is very important, because online sellers are no longer put into one space. They're no longer only on Shopify or only on Amazon or only on that kind of platform. They're becoming more diverse. They see, okay, I built a brand, I have a brand. How can I become visible everywhere, offline, online, not only social media, but anywhere? And that's something that trend needs to be surfaced as well.
I like to ask a little bit more about, if at this point, your company as a whole has had any tangible experience in helping brands get more into the physical space. I don't know if this is like something that you're working on, or if this is something that that you're already a part of, or if it's something down the line. So it might be more speculative, but have you had any experience so far in helping brands even get their products into a physical location?
Not helping them in a physical location per se, but we have helped plenty of brands that we customize everything for them. So the packaging, the product branding, everything, so that it will be shipped in bulk to an overseas warehouse. So we're launching our US warehouse probably next month, and then summer we will have a European warehouse, and that will help them on their supply chain as well. So we're not the ones that generate sales windows online or offline. We're maybe more than ones that look for reliable suppliers and arrange that it arrives.
Right. And in that way, it is still answering the question, because it is helping to create the supply line, so that if somebody chooses to have it, or they find out that a store wants to carry it, they have a clear, tangible sense of, how am I going to get this product? Not only am I going to get it here, but how am I going to get it in bulk, and how am I going to get it branded and packaged? And that's a really important part of it too. And I have to say, for me, I feel like I'm finally in like my 102 class for e-commerce. I think I finally got out of 101. Is one of the things that I really appreciate is how much these back-end companies, such as yourself, understand how important it is to have the branding right, to have the packaging consistent. So, because I have in the span of the year before I entered the e-commerce space, I had definitely ordered some stuff online, and I remember getting my hair was really long at the time, and it was this comb that you would brush, and it would straighten your hair out. And I remember the instructions were so poorly translated that this is what I would say if I was making fun of poor translations, and this thing is actually kind of dangerous if I don't use it right. So that alone lowered the bar so much, and brands need to understand that that's just not acceptable. And it also speaks to the person too who's creating this brand in the first place, like if that's what they're going to do, what does that say about the rest of their life, about their ability to commit to these other things, whatever they may be?
Yeah. It's a really O2O experience, right? It's not just on how you sell the brand online. So making the web shop look fancy is one thing, but then having the product arrived at the doorstep, that's an experience that people in the end also you want them to promote.
Mhm.
And if that's faulty or not or messy, then normally it ends in disappointment, and then we'll miss an opportunity to promote your brand further.
Yeah, one of the things I did want to ask also, actually, well, so there's one thing I want to ask just about maybe some of the personal experiences of some of the people that you've been able to help. I'm chambering that because I also just wanted to help our audience understand the company more full scope, because there's also a larger company, right? It's eTailer Hub, which I think is the parent company. So,
Yes.
I mean, they're not what we're talking about today, but I think it's important for just the audience understands the positioning here. So can you just briefly tell us about what else is under the eTail parent, and maybe what relationship there are between the different companies?
Yeah, so eTailer Hub is the group name, and
Okay.
then under the group, and then you have Hyper Logistics, which is more like our tracking and logistics arm. So we're trying to develop that as well as an independent solution, where probably we will have some kind of maybe Shopify app or someone where people can also get general tracking information. So that's kind of the logistics part, the transparency on the supply chain, which we're using now already at HyperSKU, but it also is an independent product that customers are using with outside of HyperSKU. So then we have HyperSKU, which is much more the sourcing, fulfillment, and the shipping. And then we are still thinking about, okay, social media part, maybe TikTok, do something more with that on integration with social media channels. And the other one is more B2B on how to we build a better tracking supply chain for B2B shipments itself, and to monitor the warehousing, all these kind of things. So all of it is in the end related to the same, but it's all more niche, more zoomed into what it is. Within HyperSKU itself, we can add apps as well. Whenever there's an app that will help the dropshipper, we add that as a mini app into our system. And then it can be just added and clicked and can be used. So for us, the visible part for users is mostly HyperSKU. And then around that, there are some plugins that will help. And that belongs all under the umbrella. We have the warehouse that runs as well. The warehouse is also an independent service, and that way it belongs under the umbrella, but it's not visible.
You know what's intriguing about the way that businesses can be formed based on problems that are being solved is, we don't have to get too much into like what order of events happened here, but because you have logistics and then you have a strategy in regards to social media, it make logical sense to then say, well, why don't we just turn that into its own element and almost like make that its own business. So there's a bit of compartmentalization involved, but it does give people more flexibility to really hone in on what problems they need specifically solved for their business in particular.
Yeah, it's all about that kind of understanding. And we're not a seller ourselves. We don't want to be, because it will create a conflict of interest.
Right.
What we do want to do is there's a push and a pull. So a push is most of the time the dropshipper, they're asking us, I want to sell this product. Can you help me find this and make it available? And what will be the price? That's the most common one. What we also see is there are more and more Chinese suppliers who have really good products, but they're struggling to go global. That means that we can offer that supply to certain dropshippers that are doing well in that niche or in that space. So they become more like an affiliate for these suppliers. And to be able to understand that logic, we need to also be able to be active in that space on social media to identify who's doing well, what content is out there, how can we leverage that to be able to generate a win-win. And identifying a right supplier, that's already a big win if you have that one. And that reliability, consistency, someone that's all in, wants to invest as well, keeping stock, all these kind of things is crucial, because we see with having a winning product is great.
Yep.
But soon enough, many other people will sell the same product. And then it becomes a burden, because then it is no longer available anymore. You need to wait for the product to be available, and you already sold it. And then it becomes a squeeze.
Yep.
So the tricky part is to find good products that also can scale, but they're still limited to a certain audience. And I think that's something that in the coming months and years we will spend much more time on, to be able to leverage the push and the pull. And and
Right.
and uh,
And from my perspective, let's just say, because I'm in the space now, I'm a seller, at least, step by step, is one of the ways that competition can actually take a shot at what it is that I'm doing, is because if I don't have the ability to service different parts of the world, even if they would be interested in the niche, somebody else may be a little bit closer to that, or has a different network, could take advantage of my lack of the ability to deliver on that front. And so that what you have is, you have this competition that's popping up laterally that might surround me and might end up even taking over what area I'm trying to sell to as well.
yeah, there's always a squeeze. So when quite often say, can you just give me the products that sell really well? I said, no, I cannot. I need to protect my existing customers, and all of our customers, because they work very hard to find that product and to scale it. And then it's just me is saying like, here, this one does well. Here you go. And I also, I don't think that works that way, because it's not so much about the product. It's much more about how you promote it, how you add it, how you package it. Because in the end, it's an impulse buy, and that product doesn't make that difference. It's more on how you present it. That's normally one of the main drivers.
hmm So I do want to run through this just a little bit more, just so I understand the product relationship here. So when I was looking at the website, and you have to forgive me if maybe I parse the information incorrectly, but I guess I was thinking that HyperSKU, I know one thing I know for sure is that if I say I had a product request, I could request that product, and you could look for it and try to source it and find a supplier, and you would have the leverage of a larger operation to compel the source to then want to work with you. So that would be a way that would be helping me in turn. But are you also, like, independently looking for products to maybe, let's just say you're working with somebody and you say, well, we have some other options. Maybe one of these might be of help to you. Is that an element of it, or is it largely just focusing on the products that the sellers are already working on?
It starts always with the request of the product, because we
Okay.
think they need to do the research, and then around that product we can make suggestions, but we have to be very careful with what we suggest, that it doesn't conflict with an existing one. And
hmm
that's something that's something that we always have to balance. But yeah, it could be like, this one is not available at the moment, but we have this one, and it's a similar product. It has more, maybe even more functionalities. That part we definitely do. I think for us, when it comes to what we do, is we make things transparent and automate most of it. When it comes to sourcing, fulfillment, and shipping, finding the right supplier is one thing. That's quite hard. And finding the right product and have stock available, and to do the branding and do all the communication and negotiation, that part is tricky. Fulfillment is not that easy, because you have thousands of orders coming in with different products that need to be separated and sent to the right consumer, and sometimes even combined. So you have four products that need to be put in one order, and you want that to be look the same way, in the same look and feel. And then being it shipped out within, normally we ship out 7 to 10 days from our warehouse, which is still acceptable. So continuously developing and managing these logistics lanes is very important. And then the fourth one is the after sales, is the actual communication with the consumer or with the dropshipper, to help them, give them timely answers of what they're struggling with. To have all that in a system, by just connecting your store, all the orders come in. You just actually can even ask us to click all the orders and process them, as long as you have put enough money on the account. You basically don't have to do anything anymore. You just have to connect your store, and you say, okay, it's time to top up again. Okay, I will top up some more money. Okay, what else do you need? Okay, we have a new product. Oh, okay, what's the price? Is this price okay? Yes, okay. Or I need this price, for me is better. Okay, sure. And then we negotiate, find another supplier, and you basically everything is taken care of. And most of the players in the market, they either do sourcing or they do the shipping, and not so many are actually doing both, and are trying to make everything optimized as much as possible. We want to be hands off. That's the dream,
Yeah.
that everything just goes. Yeah.
Yeah, which is an extension of what sellers on an individual level want too, because it's going to be, well, impossible really to scale effectively while not also automating these kinds of things. My personal view, and this is me coming from the perspective of somebody who's yet to make a sale. Just going to be transparent about that, which is manual is good to do first to
Yeah.
understand the process, and then that way, if I were to then automate something, I know what it is I'm automating. I don't just immediately go right to the automation side of it.
Yeah, and we see that most of the ones that do really well, they build a team around them with their own expertise. They can also get access to their account at HyperSKU of the dropshipper, but with limited access. So they're kind of like a virtual account or assistant account, staff account, and you can decide which actions they can and cannot do. So they cannot pay, or they cannot import products, or they have some kind of limitations, but it will allow them to do what they need to do, find the information that they need at that time zone they're in, to inform the consumer as fast as possible of what's happening, and to be able to allow them and enable them to find the information they need to generate invoices they need for their accountant, or overviews that they need to be created based on the data in our system. I think that's very useful, because then it becomes kind of like an open space, um, for them to grab the information they're looking for. And we still have to make more progress in that part, but that's in the end. But and enabling them, empowering the online sellers with the everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was one piece of information that I'd seen on the website that I was intrigued by. And to our audience who noticed that I started saying intrigued and stopped saying curious, that's just because I don't know, I used to edit a lot of podcasts and I kept hearing the word curious, and I'm like, I've got to get
Curious
that
comes
word
up a
out.
lot.
It does come up a lot, and I'm like, okay, intrigued. It's same thing.
Still like,
A little bit of a pattern interrupt there, which is the trend support. So what I see here, of just really kind of taking a stab at it, to be honest with you, is being able to identify what are the patterns of activity, maybe based on a lot of the clients that you're working with. So that's kind of like my guess at it, but I would like to hear about the trend support in specific. And to me, it sounds like it's a unique feature. I can't think of any other buddy that I've talked to who does this, or maybe they have a different name for it. I don't know. But anyways, take it away.
trend support is more like the products, right, where they are trendy, that kind of
Mhm.
thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, normally we look at the Chinese social media. So we look at the Douyin, the TikTok in China. We do Pinduoduo, and we have Taobao, and we look at several platforms that show good results on certain products that do well, and then we kind of look for them, and then we have this weekly. I think it's a weekly mailing to send out, just more for inspiration, and
Mhm.
to also to make ourselves more visible and to give ideas. We're not the ones that have these kind of product search tools available, what's hot and trendy. We're trying to do that differently, because everyone is coming up with the same products in this way. So
Yeah.
by looking at more at the Chinese market, and quite often these are then new products that have not been launched internationally, it will give us an advantage to promote something that's not there yet. So that's kind of how we do the trendy part. It's not per se bestsellers. It's more what is now selling well, mostly in China and
Mhm.
potentially global.
Yeah, and I think that's a key takeaway for the audience to understand that there's a lot of places to do product research. There's project research tools. People can go directly to see what's being advertised on Facebook, go directly to AliExpress. But because a lot of these products, I would say, they even originate in China. Oftentimes they're already at the forefront, and what happens there can then have a ripple effect for the rest of the world.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's our take. I think China has so many different kind of products that are still not known, globally. I think when you just look at the numbers, there are billions of products on Taobao, which is the local platform in China, which is like also belongs to Alibaba. And then there's only maybe hundreds of millions in Amazon or eBay. There's still a gap of what's available here and what's being sold globally. Yeah.
Mhm. Um, I wanted to ask me, and I know that there's obviously there's a client seller relationship here. So I recognize that before I ask this, there's only so much information that can be conveyed. So granted, but I did go into the HyperSKU case studies, And one of the case studies that stuck out to me was, it was, I think, a mother of two who's
Mm.
also selling her, and she's selling baby clothing. And I thought that was a really great story because it helps to remind people that the kind of people who are doing this work, who are selling, I mean, they're not everybody is Jeff Bezos. We have a lot of average people, alluding to what you said earlier about a lot of the people they're coming in the mornings and the evenings is the only chance they got. So there's a lot of people who, they want to do this, and to some degree they need to do this because this might be the difference between going paycheck to paycheck, making ends meet, to giving their kids a more optimistic future to look forward to. So I would love to hear some of the a couple of stories that stick out to you, or just some of the relationships that you've had that have
Yeah.
that would help be more add to the transparency and just show what kind of people are really trying to make it work here.
Yeah. Well, we're part of the journey for a lot of them, and we had this kind of how to call it, like dream screams, where somebody said, "I just quit my job." And to
Yeah.
be able to be part of that journey, that just gives me goosebumps, just to be able to help them to get their financial dream. And in the end, it's them who did it. We've just been a small part of it, but we have been a contributor to that. And it's amazing to be part of that, and that someone is sharing that with you and saying, like, I'm going to quit my job next month because it's going so well. This is what I want to be doing. I'm going to build a team. And do you have any advice for me? And that's just fun. And so that happens multiple times, and that's just fun. And there are also, of course, people that struggle and say, I've tried so many products, it's not working. What else can I do? And then we try to hook them up with someone who does really well, just to get them someone to take a look at. Because there's so many courses that people are selling, but a course is not related to what you're doing now. You want
Right.
someone to look at your as is situation. So that's something. When we see someone is really trying and it haven't been succeeding, and they really asking for help, not they're giving up, but they still want to make it work. So that's some part of it. What happening when it comes to age levels? I've had customers that are 15 years old, 15, and 70. It's fascinating to have these kind of conversations. Just the 70-year-old, he runs international business, mostly in consulting and advising, and just wants to get an understanding of what is this drop shipping, and how does it work. As I hear people talking about it, just curiosity. Sorry, I have to use that word, but
Yeah, no worries. It came up organically. I'll let it go.
so that's something that fascinates me. And everyone is in a different stage. So normally you see majority is between 20 and 30-year-olds. They are either just finished school or in school, or they dropped out of school to chase this online dream, to build an online brand, and further onwards. There are quite many of them, particularly due to last year what happened, that they cannot rely on their job or on their employer anymore. That's one. Then they're working from home, so they have extra time, and they're trying to look for some other flow of income that will help them to create something more outside of what they already have. And those are normally 30, 40, 50-year-olds. And for them, it starts as a side hustle, and most of them already have online business or existing business, either entrepreneur or as an employment. They have already the understanding of what it takes. There's already also different conversations you have, maybe a little bit more mature because they have seen more. And the other one, it's much more, sometimes slowing them down
Yeah.
to make it more realistic. Yeah.
Yeah, with the 15-year-old, I think the youngest like person I've talked to on the show was 19 when I talked to him, and that was like a couple of weeks ago. And I do think, man, I'm like 10, 11 years older, and this guy just like, he had the initiative, he knew what to do, and now he's free. That's kind of like, it's corny, but that's like the fundamental that I like to bring this all back to is, if somebody wants their freedom, this is the most tangible way to acquire it. Because although, yeah, you still have your responsibilities, life is not life without responsibility, but it's a much different thing to be in charge of our own structure as opposed to always being at the whim of somebody else's structure. And I will say too, just to give credit to my company, is that they've definitely given me a healthy balance. I got to be here for the call. I don't mind being here for the call. So then there is some structure to it, but I'm also very free too. tomorrow I could log some time, or I could go out, and it'll depend on my own discipline, my own responsibility.
Yeah.
So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it sets the tone, I think, for the teenagers and the 20-year-olds. They have access to so much right now, that much more than I had. I'm 39, so for me, I was still know when internet came, more or less. And so I don't think I've leveraged it enough, but I think it's very inspiring to see them what they're doing, and it's just for them also the beginning of an entrepreneurial journey. And this is just going to be a ripple effect. It's going to create much more business and opportunities for them. And I'm a firm believer that employments are slowly moving away, and you become your own employer. You are your
Hmm.
own business. You just need to create enough value for companies to hire you or make use of you, part-time, full-time, or whatever kind of format. And that realization, I think, is with younger people easier to grab. And the effect that social media has on large companies that fully relied on offline and now had to make a switch into also generating sales online, tapping into teenagers and 20-year-olds who understand that
Yeah.
space, has been also a great way on how it's not about seniority anymore. It's about expertise.
Yeah.
And there's no level, there's no limit, there's no age to it.
Yeah, and it's the seeds for the future have certainly been planted, and I myself, because I just hit my 30s, and I'm fascinated to see what's going to unfold in the next 10 years, and I feel like there are moments where I feel like I'm living in what that's going to be like. It's decentralization. It's for the ability for people to work remotely, travel, and be where they feel they can be either most effective, or if they just want to travel for the sake of it, and almost the dissolution of the hierarchical structure, because yeah, you got your bosses, but it always has been that way, but I think it's been more of a change in psychology than anything. The day someone's going to write my paycheck, but I have my value, they have their value, and there's a very clear exchange of goods and services.
Yeah, and this is also how we run the company at HyperSKU. We see everyone as an entrepreneur. Every employee is an entrepreneur because they're an expert on what they do. They need to contribute from their angle to make our company grow and go faster. And that kind of mindset is something we're not a follower internally. Everyone has their voice and has their value, and accepting that, I think, is huge. And for Chinese companies, that's quite rare to find, I must say. I've been here for 10 years. I've seen many Chinese companies, and it's very top down. And this one, the structure, the direction, yes, is top down, but the contribution is very bottom up.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of like grenades that the pin is just like, I'm tempted to pull it out, because it's not just about company too. It is also about their the government structure, and that is a whole other institution that definitely would take some work to resolve. I don't want to get into it, but I do want to, at the very least, say I'm aware of it, and I just want to acknowledge it and move on. But you say 10 years. That's fascinating. That's inspiring. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like your journey and how you got to that point to be committed to another part of the world for so long.
Yeah, so originally from the Netherlands, I had a trip in 2005 where I had a stopover in Hong Kong on the way to Australia and New Zealand. And I got inspired by that, just being in Hong Kong. I think I remember Sunday night, 10 p.m., I was walking around and it was crowded. I could hardly walk. I had to shovel my way on the street. It's like, my God, 10 p.m. on Sunday night. I've never had that anywhere in the world, that this has happened to me. This is fascinating. And I love other cultures. I want to learn from them because I believe that you can look at the same object in many different ways. And for everyone, it has a different meaning. And to be able to get a better understanding than living and working in a country that doesn't speak English became kind of a dream. So my dream started 2005, 2007. I was here for 6 weeks doing my research for my thesis. And then it's like, this is the place. New York and Shanghai were the place. I felt so inspired. I wanted to be there at some point and get a job. So before my 30th, I wanted to live and work in Shanghai, more or less. So that became a mission. Start to look for jobs, work for a company that hopefully would send me here. Didn't happen. Went on a holiday, looked for a job. And during that holiday, I met with 50 people for drinks, breakfast, dinners, everything. And two of them resulted into an opportunity, and one into a job. And that was TNT, the logistics company. Then I landed here in 2011. And Yeah, and then after that, I've been running multiple businesses, mostly on international trade, e-commerce, logistics. Yeah.
Well, I think it speaks to your entrepreneurial spirits too, because you said that you're going on holiday looking for work. I think most people when they go on holiday, they're looking to like hide away from their work as much as possible. So it just goes to show what you value even in your word choice. You say, well, I'm gonna go here. It's a visit, but I'm going here with an objective and a goal, and you were inspired by it.
Yeah, thanks for noticing. I'm a strong believer about proximity. So if you want to be in places, you want to reach a certain goal, you have to be in places where it's happening.
Yeah.
And with the people that are doing it. And for me, it was I want to be working and living in China. I cannot be in a meeting tomorrow because I'm not there. I need to relate to these people. And the same goes for drop shippers. Don't isolate yourself on the attic or in your own room. Go out there, connect with others, find a mentor group, find someone who's in the same space as where you are in your journey, and feel inspired and understand it's not just you that are doing this hustle. There are plenty of other people doing that, and being in proximity will just help you to go much faster in the goals you want to achieve.
I think it's worthwhile too, considering how much of this is accomplished remotely, and again, you and I are in two very disparate parts of the world, and yet when you say to proximity, there's still unmistakable, indisputable value to where you are and who you're around by. And I'm not the biggest fan of the word vibe, but that word is just slang for vibration, and being around the same energy signatures of other people will make somebody more productive. I don't know if the science is exact, but it seems to me that it makes logical sense.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a huge contributor, and it still is. Whenever I want to make something happen in a space, I need to get connected with the people, talk to them, let them hear my story, and get the voice out, and then people start to think with you instead of for
Yeah,
you.
right.
And that's something that's very important. Social media is a great tool because quite often it's the weak links that help me most. People that I didn't know but are somehow connected with me on Facebook or WeChat in China or any kind of tool, and they see the message and they respond, "Hey, I know someone," or "I'm interested," or "Can you share a little bit more?" It's like, "Huh, you? I never even thought about you." So that's super powerful. Just to be active in groups that whether you know them or don't know them, but you're in proximity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I want to. I think how much time I've got you for? Yeah, I got you another like 8 or 9 minutes. There is another question here, a bit of a gear shift, but this is one that I think is going to be really important for our audience to ask. So I was on the hyper. By the way, before meeting you, I was like dead set on calling it HyperSKU, but I noticed you called it
Both is
HyperSKU.
fine. It
Well,
doesn't
it's fine.
matter.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, when in doubt, just go for like the most absurd pronunciation possible, which is why for dinner I'll be having my VG tables. Anyways, so I noticed that there were, I mean, it wasn't there were conditions, but there were like some questions that they asked the seller, like, are you selling 10 to 50 orders per day? And if you're selling that many orders, and HyperSKU would be the fit. And there were some other conditions too. I didn't write those down, but that one stuck out to me because I think there's a challenge here. Um, it's indisputable that there is a lot that you can do to help and to expand and to create the growth that they're looking for. But the challenge prior to that is, how do you getting to 10 to 50 orders per day while potentially being at somewhat of a disadvantage. Now, I'm not posing this question so that you can provide the solution. I don't think that's fair, but I would like to know just some of the experiences that you've learned from some of the people that you've worked with, maybe how they've been able to get to the point where they're now ready to work with HyperSKU.
Yeah, we don't have an MOQ, so if there's one order a day, it's possible. This is
Okay,
what we write on the website is more our ideal customer
sure,
on
fair
what we
enough.
would like to serve. The reason is also because you can then benefit from the efficiency of our system. If you do one order, for us, it's we buy locally in China, and then we have local delivery costs to our warehouse, and then we handle that one order and ship it out. We only so that's additional cost. That if you can divide this logistics shipping cost, which is normally maybe 50 cents to a dollar, if you can divide it over multiple products, it becomes far more interesting. So that's the definitely then it becomes smaller and smaller, and you don't really feel the impact of that additional cost that we have to take. So that's one thing when it becomes more interesting. Then the system itself, there's a lot of efficiency to it. So if you have multiple orders, you can click them all at once. You can pay them all at once. If you have multiple products or also multiple suppliers, you don't have to deal with all these multiple suppliers because we take care of that. You only have to talk to us. So there's an efficiency advantage as well. So first is cost, second is efficiency, and third is for us, our own business, we only earn money once there's an order placed. There's no subscription fee. There's no, you don't pay any fixed cost or anything. Only once the order is placed, we earn money because our prices is a product price and a shipping price. And inside that price is our margin. And you can understand that if it's one order, it will never be profitable just because of the amount of time you need to put in to set it up, help the customer get started, give them a understanding. So that's why we prefer to have 10 to 50 orders a day, but we understand that everyone has to grow into that. And creating a win-win from the beginning is fine. It's always a conversation. And I think a lot of people forget, what they forget is they sign up HyperSKU, submit a sourcing request, they get a result, and say it's too expensive. And we do that on purpose because we kind of add a discount once the conversation starts. Because only someone that is serious wants to negotiate for what they have and want to see what's possible. And everything is possible, but we need to have the right mindset. If someone is just coming for click a product, check, it's not okay. Okay, I'll leave it. HyperSKU is too expensive. Okay, fine. We're not the right fit. So it's also a filter for us to getting people to understand it takes work from both sides to create that win-win. And that kind of filter is built in our system as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's it speaks to the larger through line, not just throughout the show here, but also what everybody in the e-commerce space, regardless of where they're making their content or where they're saying it, is that, you know, this is going to take a great deal of work. And I myself, I don't think I've talked to anybody who like considers themselves one of the gurus. I've only ever seemed to talk to people who say, well, I'm not one of the gurus. So I think that I guess that conclave aren't really part of the industry, at least part of the ecosystem that is going on over here. So I think that for the most part, I like the tactic. I really do like the idea of just, you know, show them the price and using that as a way to gauge whether or not they really have even the stomach to deal with this in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to realize that most of our time is put into the communication. And so one person can only handle a certain number of accounts.
Yeah.
And to be able to vet them before they start communicating, this is a great way, because otherwise we cannot handle the customers that submit the sourcing request.
So one other part of it too that I wanted to ask about, because I don't ask about about returns and refunds as often maybe as I should. So I did want to touch on that briefly, which is because you know, we established, we understand that what you do with your clients is it's a very clear working win-win relationship. So when it comes to the refund, how much onus is it on the seller to, I guess, gauge whether or not something is good to refund or return, and if so, safely getting back to the warehouse, quality control, that kind of thing. So how do you diplomatically, I guess, handle the returns and the refunds problem?
Yeah, of course we try to reduce that as much as possible, but when it happens, it's so normally if the product is sent wrong, so for example they ordered red and they get blue, like a blue item, or when it's just is broken, or when it's didn't arrive, so lost or missing, then we will either compensate, so we refund, or we resend at our cost. We take ownership for that, because that part is we made a mistake. We didn't check enough on the product, or we didn't protect them well enough, or our supply chain or logistics solutions are not reliable enough. When a consumer is not happy because the size is not right, but we shipped out the right size, or when they don't think it's the right fit, or they just want to return it, that's not on us, because we don't select the products. The online seller selects the products. So in that case, the consumer has received it and accepted it, and then they can return it to China if they want to, but most of the time they don't want to because it's too expensive to the cost itself, because it's at their cost. When a parcel is not delivered, quite often it's returned to our overseas warehouse of our partner, and then we can send out again. We just need to verify the address information, whether it was sent to the right place in the first place, with a phone number, and then we can send out again.
Mhm. Yeah, and when I would say the central point to all of this too is how important customer satisfaction is at the end of it all. And I was tempted to say the company that did this, and I feel like if I do that, that's actually going to like a bunch of people are going to try taking advantage of them. So I'm not going to do that. But I did order a product, and it ended up not being a fit. And so I said, hey, I'm going to have to return this. And they said, just keep it. It's fine. It's a gift from us. And I was perplexed because it's like an $80 purchase. It wasn't cheap. I mean, depending on who you ask. So I thought, even at that price point, it really wasn't worth it for them to take it back. I don't know, maybe a liability thing. I mean, it is part of, like, it is attached to the person's body. So maybe they're just worried about the coronavirus or whatever it was. But yeah, like in order to avoid that, they really do need to focus on making sure that the customer is satisfied and test the product, make sure the product is going to cover all the bases, crash test it as much as you can. Yeah.
We do ask for proof. So when it's not delivered, then normally you can see with the tracking number that it's delivered or not delivered. If the consumer still doesn't claim it's not delivered, we ask them to fill in a form and sign for that they actually did not receive it. And when it's broken, we ask for pictures. When it's the wrong color or wrong whatever product, then we ask for pictures. Ask the consumer to prove that it was that what they received is not the correct one. So whenever there's something wrong or by mistake, then we prove. If the seller says, the dropshipper, because that can also be a business model, the dropshipper says, sorry, they didn't receive, can you just refund to me? Then they can also earn money, right? So for us, we also want to show proof that the dropshipper has refunded it. So if the dropshipper refunds 20%, 50%, or 100%, we will refund the same 20%, 50%, or 100% of what they spend with us. So we also want to see some proof to be able to just make it fair. I mean, we are transparent. They need to be transparent, and everyone. Otherwise, it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's certainly, I think, the fundamental of the conversation today is the importance of transparency. And so, I got to say, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm really grateful to get the insights from you that I did. But it's been an hour, so I'm going to. I got one more question for you. It's more about, this is more just curious, but is there anything else that you'd like to tell us just about what life is like living there? Any other like fun factoids, food or travel or roads or what's on TV, anything like that you'd like to share with us?
China is now just very open when it comes to traveling. So China is very free. I mean, whenever you operate within this, within the boundaries of the country, you can go anywhere where you want to go. So that I think is quite unique when you look at the global situation right now. For me, is what is very cool is that in China, everyone is chasing their China dream. It's even taught on primary schools already, that kids already be educated on principles of chasing certain values that will help them and the company and the country to grow. You can call it propaganda, but it is a mindset that I see as well with all the dropshippers that I'm dealing with. They're chasing the same values as what's being taught now in China. So that entrepreneurial mindset is being already put into the minds of young Chinese at this point, and that's going to just accelerate over time as well. Everyone in China is chasing their China dream and willing to fail and try some new things. And I find that very inspiring. And that's why it also keeps me here and kept me going, just because it's just full of opportunities. And I think a lot of people are not fully aware of that part of the China. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's new to me too. I didn't realize that. And I think that can be instilled in different ways in different parts of the world. And not to be critical, some parts might call it patriotism.
We're all proud of where we're from. So I think the majority is, so that's fine. It's normal.
Yeah. And with that, I think I think we're all good here. Cool. Again, I just want to thank our audience for their participation too. It means a lot to be able to gather this information and to be able to convey it. So Simon, if there's any last words you'd like to share, wisdom, advice, answer to a question, didn't ask, anything like that, you're more than welcome to. No pressure. And then let the audience know how they can get involved and get in touch.
Yeah, just keep chasing the dream and don't get disappointed, because in the end, you will look back at as a journey. So even your lows are probably one of the moments that you feel most proud of along the way.
Yeah, excellent. And then how to find you guys online?
Obviously, hypersku.com. We also have a frequently asked questions where you can get a lot of information. We're on YouTube. We have instruction videos and content there. Instagram. And then there's a chat always where you can just connect with us and talk to. If you want to reach out to me, I'm on Facebook, on Instagram, and LinkedIn. So Simon de Raadt, RAADT, and you can leave a message there as well. Happy to help you out.
All right, terrific. And with that, we're going to let everybody go. So to our audience, all the best. Take care, and we'll check in soon.
Facebook advertising, in my opinion, there are three main factors, or I rather call them the three main pillars of what.
Hey, this is Joseph from Ecomonics. Just wanted to thank you for being here and for giving this content your time and attention. I hope you learned something. I can say with certainty, I have learned something with every episode that I have done, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. There's a couple things you can do to help us out. If you want to check out the audio content, we are available on all major podcast platform distributors. And while you're there, give us a 5-star review. It helps a lot. And while you're here on YouTube, there's a lot of things you can do to help out as well. It's not going to take very long. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button for this episode, and hit the notification bell so when we have new content for you, it's going to be at your doorstep ASAP. Lastly, this podcast is created by Debutify, the best Shopify template available. It is 100% free for you to start, and it can change your life. It can make you so much more free than you are right now. So if this episode wasn't enough to convince you, I think a few more might do the trick. So have at it.